Good evening, everybody, and welcome again to another episode of Disney Dialogues. It is Conversations with the Magic Makers, and tonight we have got a magic maker whose hands are just absolutely incredible. The magic created, whether it's Disney, whether it's non-Disney, it doesn't matter. It's amazing, and we're going to have some fun tonight. Hello to everybody in the chat. I'm going to try to get to your questions as much as I can tonight, but we've got a lot to talk about with our guests. We're going to dig deep into a little bit about the history of how Scooter came to be and where he is today and where he's going tomorrow and in the future with the magic that he brings. I want to acknowledge that Jen can't make it in tonight. She got tied up with her son with baseball, which is important. Family first, always on our channel. So what I've done tonight is I've dropped in some of some of Scott's work along the way into that box tonight. So you're going to get to see a little bit of additional art pieces tonight, and I think that'll be pretty cool. If you have questions for me for my guests, drop it in there at Pete McDevitt Show. I'll do the best I can to get to it tonight and have some fun. So, what I want to do first is I want to show you guys some of Scott's work here because it's absolutely incredible. If you've only seen him at the parks for Disney, you're going to see an amazing works here. His work to me, personally, from following artists and doing this segment when I see a piece that is Scooter, man, I'm just blown away, and I'm like, "Yup, that's it, 100%." I love this piece up top. It reminds everybody knows I'm a huge Rat Pack fan, huge Sinatra fan. I love this piece the first time I saw it. It reminds me of days of old Hollywood when, Frank and Dean would get up there and just do those shows with an orchestra that were so absolutely cool. You'll see some of the Pan Am work. Scott does a lot with Pan Am, which is really cool, ties in with that and looks into the future with so many unique things. Look at the Rat Pack picture right there. As a matter of fact, out at the Sands years ago. These are some great pieces. Again, that shows you the vast majority of our guests tonight. Here's a little bit of his Disney art. I pulled Scott's logo off his website here because I thought it was just gorgeous. And to tie in some of the pieces that we have, when you go down there and you see some of his Disney time, look at that. With Sorcerer Mickey in the background. I absolutely loved it. I pulled the piece up top there because, again, it just reminds me of being all over. So I'm going to bring Scott in here with me here now. And Scott, I'm going to give you the full-fledged introduction. So you ready for this one here? This is the full-fledged treat you up to date here. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Our guest tonight, Scott Burroughs, globally known as Scooter, is a highly successful painter, illustrator, designer whose creative work has captivated audiences all around the world. I was amazed as I prepped for this interview how many reactions I saw from people globally. Our guest tonight earned his Bachelor of Arts from the Academy of Art University in San Francisco, California. After graduation, this is really cool. He began his career as a video game animator and conceptual artist for Sega, who's not a huge Sega fan, before being hired by Walt Disney, launching this incredible journey in design. Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, imagine if you would for a second film credits that include, I'm getting goosebumps, Pocahontas, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Mulan, Tarzan, and Fantasia 2000, along with The Emperor's New Groove and Lilo and Stitch. And that's just to name a few. That's not all of them. Our guest tonight does exactly that. A recent quote from his website describes Scott perfectly. Scooter has always loved the mid century modern commercial style from the 40s to the 70s, and his distinct artistic style has been shaped by a deep love and passion, imaginary of that iconic area. And it is a great era. I love that era. Scott brings a whimsical approach to his paintings and illustrating, celebrating days gone by while infusing each piece with a touch of modern retro magic that captures the charm of these treasures from the past. The talent of our guest tonight is evident in the remarkable roster of collaborations of clients. Listen to this, everybody. I'm always blown away, and tonight I am just wow. His client list includes Walt Disney Feature Animation, Walt Disney Theme Park Merchandise, Fargo, Sega, Simon Schuster, and Target, all trusting Scott's vision. And these are just to name a few. There's more companies in his portfolio than I could go. He's a romanticist at heart. I love that about him, with a deep love that flows through his gifted, magical hands every piece that he creates. That same love is also shaped in his beautiful life, anchored by an incredible marriage to his high school sweetheart. That's cool. Christy, uh, there, and they're two amazing kids, and they're two lovable cats, and I think those cats play a little role tonight. I wanted to finish my introduction of Scott tonight by, ladies and gentlemen, saying somebody who is one of my heroes in all they do, Johnny Carson. I loved Carson and the way he just came about everything. Johnny Carson once said about a global talent known worldwide with a smooth, respectful nickname. He was referencing Old Blue Eyes. And of course, that's Sinatra. I think you have a little love for Sinatra, do you not, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, I
Ladies
do.
and gentlemen, here he is on the screen with us, and I'm glad he's here. He's only known as Scooter when you're here in the parks. Scott, thank you so much for coming on and hanging out with us tonight.
Wow, that was like the nicest introduction I've ever had. So thank you. That was awesome. Thanks.
Oh, it's we try to tell our truths out early so that our guests can get to know you because every now and then we get somebody who's new to art that might be getting to learn a little bit, and I like to you worked hard to build that whole line to where you are now, and it's nice to recognize a little bit of that along with what we're going to talk about. So how about if we start with just
Mhm.
a simple thing tonight of from your side of the animator's desk, just a little introduction about yourself.
Okay. Well, yeah, like you'd mentioned, I'm married to my wife, Christy. Met her in high school here in Colorado back in 1987. And she was a lot of the inspiration for me pursuing art. Uh, just my biggest cheerleader so far in life. And we have two
Nice.
amazing kids, Max, who lives in Redding, California, and our son Titus, who lives in Denver.
Okay.
They both have, let's see, one's engaged and one's probably going to be engaged really soon. So we love our future daughter-in-laws. We love spending
Nice.
time with family. So that's kind of the family thing. So worked for, like you had mentioned, started with Sega, then Disney, then went into illustration and fine art. And I love what I get to do. It's something I would do even if I didn't get paid to do it. So I feel extremely blessed, and I have tons of gratitude for what I get to do. And I love that I get to work with my wife, Christy. She's the business side of it.
Right.
She's the one that makes everything happen, keeps everything organized. So,
I can quantify that firsthand because I've been to the festival several times, and I've stopped always to say hello. I've said hello to your wife a couple times. What I'm
mhm,
always amazed with is for you, much like several of your counterparts down there, like Noah, who we've interviewed a couple weeks
yeah,
ago, the line for you is consistent from start to finish. And I will tell you, I've been by your stand multiple times during the day, and I have never once seen where you are not smiling, happy, excited. You're signing stuff till and you're just sharing those moments. I've seen people bring things to you as little gifts because they are so inspired by you. And again, your wife, absolutely, I just incredible with the way she
mhm,
handles everything, too. Very professional, always happy. So, as a
mhm,
fan, on behalf of so many people that come down to see you, thank you for that. I love that. Let's
yeah,
dig in a little bit here, and we're going to change slides as we go through and talk about stuff. You shared that art made an impression on you as early as kindergarten, which I was really when I was reading and doing the research, I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. But it continued to
yeah.
shape your journey through high school. Can you talk about those early experiences that influenced your decision to pursue an art focused college path later in life?
Yeah. Well, so I had a learning disability growing up. So horrible student, math, English, science, history, horrible. But I always loved to draw. So as from a really, really young age, anytime I could draw, that's what I would do. And I loved, and we just talked about this a second ago, I loved creating big art. So the bigger the piece of paper I could get, the happier I was.
Right.
And so I started that at a really young age. And then, got through school. When I was in high school, I really started pursuing art, take as many art classes as they would let me take. And, God does miracles. I graduated high school. And then right after high school, I took a year off to work, and that really kind of, I was pretty immature. And I think that really kind of, I was like, man, I was a busboy. And I was
Okay.
like, I don't want to be a busboy the rest of my life. So that kind of got me thinking, like, I want to go to art school. So, finished that year, moved to California, and started college. And in all through school, I was probably like a C D student.
Okay.
And in college, I was straight A's because I was very serious. I think I just needed that year off to kind of help me figure out what I wanted to do.
Right.
And that's really when I started pursuing art, because I was like, I really want to do something that makes me happy. Like, You get suggestions like, well, business is probably better field to go into than art, and people mean well. But I think at such a young age, I can look back now and I'm just really grateful. Like I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what made me happy, which was art. And I love that I've just been able to do it, since I was a little
Continue.
kid all the way to, yeah, continue to today. So,
I love it. Yeah, you've touched a lot of lives through your illustration with your movies, which you're going to talk about later, and all your works that you're doing now. Want to let everybody know that throughout the stream, my moderators will be dropping all the links for Scott's Scooter's social media, so you can follow all there. That is the place, like Instagram and everything. Keep up when they have when he has the announcements of for where he's going to be, whether it's Disney or non-Disney related. That's the way to do it. And of course, his website also. We'll talk about that a little later, but the links are there. They're also, if you're watching on the replay and you can't get to the chat right now, you can go right into the description of the video, and every one of Scott's social media links are all posted in the description of the video for everybody to find. I'd like to take a moment and talk about some influences in your life, if I could. Let's start
mhm.
with Barbara Bradley. Can you share the impact she had on you? Doing my research, I was really impressed. And then, of course, I know there's a great story about how Disney began recruiting you that involves some free pizza. Everybody loves free pizza, and if it's coming from Disney, it's got to be good. Would you mind sharing that with our audience?
Yeah. So, well, back in college, so I went to a school Disney recruited from, and I was not interested in Disney at all. I was actually a sculpting major,
Okay.
and I was a starving college student, and Disney came recruiting, and this was right before they released Beauty and the Beast. And if you went to hear the presentation, you got free pizza. So that was the only reason I went, and I had to sit in the second row, like the second row back, and they showed us Beauty and the Beast, and it was called the Work in Progress. So it wasn't the finished version. It was like storyboards, rough animation, cleanup animation. It was like and finished animation. So it was everything. And they showed us the opening sequence. And within 2 minutes of seeing that, I was just like, I want to be a Disney animator. Like something in my heart, like it was that fast. Like
Right.
literally the rest of my life was changed. And so I talked to my counselors, and this was the beginning of my junior year. So I spent the rest of my junior year and senior year working on a portfolio with Barbara Bradley. And God
Nice.
bless her, because I was not of my skills as far as like figure drawing. That's what Disney wanted to see back in the day to get hired. They didn't want to see
Right.
drawings of Mickey Mouse or Goofy. They wanted life drawings of people and animals. And Barbara, I told her what I wanted to do, and
Uh,
she just took pity on me. And she spent the next 2 years just working with me. And
love
she's
that.
like a gift. Like before I even knew what a mentor was, she was a mentor. She went way above and beyond just being, a professor in school. And that's one of those things where I'm like, if you could look where God puts certain people in your lives, that was just like
Absolutely.
a gift to my life. So worked with her for 2 years and graduated, submitted a portfolio, and kind of that's what started my career.
I love it. I love it. I love that you can sit back now years later and pinpoint to a spot. We've had that with many of our artists that we've talked
Hmm.
to, and also our authors. We interviewed an author just recently that could pinpoint back to an English teacher that was
Yeah,
telling the story that influenced. I absolutely love that. Well, speaking
yeah,
of that, passions and influences and our impactful people are often at the core, of what we do. And you mentioned earlier, and I couldn't do this interview tonight without acknowledging because she's so critical not only to your life but to your business. Can you share
yeah,
some words and kind of deeply reflect for a second about your faith in God, which is something that you and I have a lot in common there, but your unwavering stability you found in your rock, your wife Christy, because she is so
mhm.
important with what you do.
Yeah. It's funny. Like, so I'd gotten hired by Disney, and I wasn't a Christian. I kind of grew up going to church, but didn't know that much about it. And my older brother called me, and he's just like, you got a lot of good things going on in your life. You should probably start going to church. He said this in college when I was just getting ready to graduate. And I was just like,
Right.
let me graduate, then I'll kind of look into the whole God thing. I really wasn't that interested in it.
Right.
So moved to Florida, and like my Disney gives every new person a mentor. So my mentor, his name was Tim.
Okay.
Tim Hodge, amazing guy. He was a Christian.
Hmm.
My roommate, when I did the internship, was a Christian, and so like God had started putting like certain people in my life, even though I
Right.
didn't know what that. I had no idea what that meant,
Right. At that
and
time.
so
Right.
yeah, I just was like, whatever. And then so Christy and I, we got there and we started going. I called my brother. I'm like, how do you even find a church? Like, what is that? I was super annoyed. I'm like, I'm gonna go, but I'm not happy about it. And he's like, we found First Baptist of Kissimmee, which was close to where we lived,
Okay.
and Christy and I started going there, and it was really funny. Like we'd have like these intense conversations after church, like, do you really believe this? And like, it was very, the beginning part was just trying to figure out like what we both believed.
Right.
And during this time we had gotten pregnant. So when we were, and so we were doing church, we're learning, but we weren't fully in. And then around when Christy was about 5 months pregnant, we had a miscarriage, and
Oh, I'm
she
sorry.
almost died, and we lost a baby. And the pastor Tim of that church, he came to the hospital. He met us. He's like, well, I've never seen you in church. And we're like, well, we're the last ones in and the first ones out. We don't really talk to people. And he was like, just loved on us. And then it was really cool because like I didn't know how to put words to it, but it's like when you're the recipient of the church in motion. Like we had so many people just love on us, and we're like, "What the heck is happening?" Like people bringing us food,
Right.
taking care of us, loving on us, and so that's really what kind of was our. That's where we're just like, we need Jesus, and that's where we accepted Him, and so we kind of started. We started right around the same time, Christy and I, as far as like our faith in Christ and what we were doing. And from there started working. Like a year later or 2 years later, we started working with youth, and just has been an amazing life. And I think everything, like all those highlights you got to share at the beginning, I'm just
Yeah.
like, thank you God, thank you God, thank you God, because like
Yes.
it's even when I have a line at Festival of the Arts, I'm just like, God, thank you. Like it's totally Him. So that's my heart whenever it comes, like all the good in my life. I'm just like, praise God. Thank you for that.
I love that. I've said many times on this channel as we've gone through different stuff that I go through and the people we meet that, faith is a gift that you can just keep opening and it's always something there in the box. And I love
Mhm.
that. I love how you sharing that with us and thank you so much. I mean, that means a lot. Let's jump over and talk, reflect for a second about, your decade, a decade with Disney, both as an animator on films like Mulan and Tarzan and Lilo and Stitch, and as a mentor to new artists. Do you
Yeah.
ever pause to consider the incredible impact you've made on millions of lives around the world through your work on such iconic stories like these and the inspired artists behind you? Because I can see the impact as I did preparation for your interview.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good question. Honestly, I don't think of it that often when I do a Disney event. Like lots of times, the older I get, now I'm meeting people that's like, "Oh my gosh, that was like my childhood was all those films you worked on."
Hmm.
And so I like that. Really, I'm so appreciative of that. It makes me really grateful. But it's not something I think about a lot.
Hmm.
But when it's kind of people are thanking me for it, I'm really grateful. And it was an amazing opportunity. It was like, I tell people it was like going to the best art school for 10 years with my best friends. So I
That's
loved
cool.
every moment of it. From the time I got hired as an intern to the time where they decided they were going to close the studio, Disney took amazing care of all of us artists. Like
I love
I
that.
always felt super taken care of. And when I left the studio, I was more, I started working on more of the fine art stuff and
Hmm.
illustration. So when I knew it was kind of coming to an end, and I did it for 10 years, I was just like, I felt like I got to work at one of the best studios in the world. And I was excited to kind of pursue other things art wise, super grateful for it. But I just love that, I had that opportunity, and it really helped make me the artist that I am today. That's where I really learned to draw. So even when I first
That's
got there, I
cool.
was like, I would look at my drawing skills and I'm just like, oh my gosh, because you're surrounded by just insanely talented people. And it wasn't I wouldn't say it was competitive, but just because you're in a culture where everybody wants to get better, like, your best friends, like you're just like, you'd work on, they'd call them tests back then to get promoted. you would work on these tests where like you do a character, you come up with your own dialogue and you'd animate it. And that was called a test, and you'd submit it to the review board, and that's how you get promoted up. And so we're always like, when you see a friend's working on a test or I was working on a test, you'd be like, will you look at this? And even stopping in and, talking to like the veteran animators, like the big time people, everybody was so willing to just help everybody else out. So
I
it was
love
an
that.
amazing culture to be in.
It's so great to hear, with that, 'cause it's a very competitive culture because everybody's trying to get their done, but the fact that they would do that, I'm actually gonna step outside the interview and talk for a second because I heard you, on during my research talk about, I'm gonna go jump over to this piece for a second here. I heard you talk about the story about how you were really impacted by the first time you saw the castle, and it all kinda came together. I thought it was a incredibly awesome story. Would you share that with
It
our
was,
audience?
yeah, it was fun. So like when you first get there, the way you used to get hired back then is you'd be an intern. And so I was hired as an intern. There was 13 of us in the program. And so one of the first days, like when you get there, is they send all of us to the park together. So it's just a
Mm,
way for us to get to know each other. And so I grew up going to Disneyland and I loved the castle there. To me, it was massive and beautiful. And then you go to Disney World, and I just was like, what the heck is that? It's like, it was just, I saw the castle and I was completely blown away. It was, um, I love both castles, but that really surprised me. And
yeah,
so it still does. I still love seeing it. I was there when they decorated like a big pink cake, and I've
I
always loved
remember.
seeing it. So
Yep,
the piece you're showing there, I was just like, I love the Jetsons. I'm like, if I could combine like Jetsons and be inspired by that castle, like what would it look like? And so that's that piece I kind of came up with. And instead of having Tinkerbell at the top, I wanted like a little retro,
right.
kind of spaceship going over. And so that's kind of what came from that piece. And that piece has been really popular. Like as an artist, you just never know what's going to resonate with people. There's times I'm working on something, I'm like, people are going to love this, and it's like crickets. Like people are like, yeah, we really don't like it. And
Right.
then other times, you're like, gosh, is this okay, to share with people? And it becomes like one of your biggest sellers. So it's, you just never know, but it is
Never know.
fun when you get something that resonates with people.
Well, I love that piece, and I wanted to share that story. It's a great transition for us to talk about your art for a second. Your artwork has become instantly recognizable for those who are in the art genre and loving Disney art, especially, almost like a fingerprint in a way, through your distinct
Mhm.
take on the mid-century modern commercial style from like the 40s to the 70s. Could you walk us through that journey and the inspiration that kind of led you to embrace and develop this signature aesthetic that you have?
Sure. So, just me growing up, both my parents and my grandparents decorated kind of mid-century modern. I didn't
Uh,
know what that was, I just knew I liked it growing up. An example would be my mom had these two wooden carved cats that were just like, I just thought I really liked how they looked, even when I was like, I don't know, first and second grade. And so just things like that, certain pieces of art, clean lines, just fun shapes. I really liked, growing up. And so as I got older and my wife, Christy, and I, we started decorating our home and stuff, I was really drawn to that. And that's where I kind of looked into a little bit more like, well, why do I like this type of furniture or this type of art? And that's where I started, learning more about it. And that's also where, I discovered, certain Disney animators I like,
right.
certain artists outside of that I was drawn to. And it's really, as you're a young artist, you look at all this art and it does influence you. And so like, typically as an artist, you'll start copying what you see the artists that you think are awesome. You kind of copy their style. You're trying to learn your own. And then at a certain point, you really kind of break away from that. And the last thing you want to do is have your work look like somebody else's. You kind of start to find your own lane as an artist. And some people do that really fast, and sometimes it takes people a little while to get that. But I think once you find that lane where you're just like, I love creating art that looks like this, that feels like this, then you're kind of off to the races. And you can start. I was, this last year, just the word innovate just kept going through my mind. And so it's like, I never just want to stop with just it,
Right.
with one style of art. I'm always trying to like grow and learn and push it. But Yeah, and even looking at Disney as a child, like there are several of the animators. There's like Ward Kimball or Tom Orurup. There's like certain
Right.
ones that really hit that 50s, 60s style that I just love. And so I just was always drawn to it. And then the older I get, the more I kind of research them, and it's fun to hear their stories. And I actually got to meet, several of the Nine Old Men, which was just a
Oh,
treat
that's
from
cool.
Disney. And Ward Kimball was one of them, and he was so fun. He's just like, when you're old and you're just super spicy and you just don't care.
Right.
That was him. But he had the best stories. But I actually have a drawing of his from Ichabod Crane that I loved, and he signed it, and just the nicest guy. So those are like my influences. It's a lot of it is Disney, and then a lot of just other artists that have a certain look that kind of hit my heart.
I think it's very cool that as I've done this whole dialogue segment with Jen, we found so many people that found a that single direct link, either the direct link or a single link out from Walt, that old Kevin Bacon thing. How many lives you weigh, and so many
Yeah.
people are getting to that one that are influenced like yourself. I mean, we talked with
Mhm.
Margaret Carey not that long ago, and people like that had that influence and what they did. And it's such an amazing thing. So I love to hear that, and definitely love to influence. If you guys, if you have time, we're dropping the links in here after the interview tonight. Go over to his website, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And just take a look through the flow of the art. It's amazing. I spent hours over there preparing for this preparation for this whole interview, and it was absolutely awesome. All right, let's go over and talk for a second here. Your features at Disneyana have been an outpouring of love for your work. I personally witnessed the long lines of fans eager to purchase your work at Epcot's Festival of the Art. And I've overheard so many fun conversations about your use of cats, dogs, and unique playful shapes, which we were kind of just referencing away. Can you share
Mhm.
how these elements became the single part? Is it just the flow of those animators? Was it, is it your cats that are the inspiration for some of these cats? I mean, because this is some as we look at these guys, these are some amazing pieces here.
Yeah, well, so I grew up with cats. My mom was like a total cat person, so my dad was too. But so we grew up mostly Siamese, is what we had growing up. And Chrissy and I have had Siamese. Now we have they're not Siamese; they're more rescue cats. But I've just always loved cats. I think they have so much personality, and they bring a lot to our life. And so I think in art, that's just one of those. They're just so fun for me to include in art. I'm always like, okay, what's the story with this, and just the attitude of a cat, and
Right,
so cats have been like that. I've done some dog pieces. I've done commission pieces for people with dogs, and I
right.
always
We
I
were
love.
just looking. Where's that one? We were just looking at that one. There it is. There's one of the
Yeah,
dog
yeah.
pieces.
So that one's called Mr. Peeper. So when I was in high school, I lived with a family, and they had a dog that looked just like this, a little bit fatter. It was a dachshund, and his name was Pepper. And Christy named him Mr. Peepers. And so he loved the family, but he hated everybody outside the family. He liked me because I was part of the family then.
Right.
But so he's one of those animals that had a ton of personality. And so when it came to like this piece, it was just like kind of combining that, 50s, 60s, clean lines, shapes, with the dachshund. And I was just like, what would that look like? And then I love creating artwork that's on stained wood. Like this is a birchwood piece, and just kind of having the just that wood, I think really gives it like a vintage feel, and then just like the fun shapes and pops of color. That's something I've loved doing. I'm working on a piece today for somebody it's a birchwood piece. So that's
I
something
love
I
it.
definitely really enjoy doing.
You can go over and check out either on his YouTube channel or also on the website. He does pieces where he takes full doors. He'll go to like Home Depot or those places like that, and he buys a
Yeah,
door, and then the work that goes into it to get the piece to go, and then to get the color right. And
yeah,
Scott spends you'll hear about it. Scott spends a lot of time looking at the grain and everything, and thinking about how the grain is going to affect where his pieces are on the. It's
yeah.
so cool. It's a very cool thing. I love it. Eric Blauvelt, welcome in, Eric. Hit that subscribe if you're new, my friend. He says, I collect Scott's work, both classic MCM and his Disney stuff. I would love to know the story of how he got his Disney animation desk in the back. You want to throw that out there real quick?
Yeah, so that's when I was at the Florida studio. That's the studio I was at,
Okay.
and we had just started working on the last picture I kind of worked on was called A Few Good Ghosts. I think they changed the name to something else after that.
I think they
But
did.
yeah, I can't remember what they called it. But anyway, they it's interesting. Whenever you if you work for a company and they start selling furniture, it's kind of a sign that things might be ending. And I wasn't necessarily thinking that, but they had kind of we'd had a couple layoffs at the Florida studio, same thing at the California studio,
Right.
and so they let us know like, hey, if you want to buy an animation desk, you could do it. And we were just finishing we'd finished overtime on, I think it was Brother Bear, and so I was saving my overtime money to buy a desk, and I think it was like $1,300 to buy a desk. And so I love the desk. I love drawing at it. I love the backlight. And so as soon as I could, I bought my desk and brought it home. And I literally use every piece I work on usually starts there with the sketch that I'm working on. So
That is
I
an
love it.
incredible. That's
Yeah,
incredible tie-in. That's
that's the same disc I used for all the movies. So,
oh
I've
my
been drawing in
gosh.
that thing for a long time.
Oh, I absolutely love that story. Thank you, Eric. Thank you for bringing that up, buddy. That's fantastic. I love it. All right, well let's jump over to here. And let's transition to another beloved part of your work. I love the Dear and Darling series. Absolutely love it. I know just it captures the hearts of thousands, and the newest editions for everybody out there were just released on May 9th. Can you talk about the powerful influence that drive the success and the creativity behind this incredible part of your portfolio?
Well, I think the older I get, the more there's certain things I kind of know where my lane as an artist. So
Okay.
what really kind of lights my heart up is anything that has to do with romance, anything that has to do with love, just couples being together, going on adventures, and experiencing the world together. And so that was kind of the heart with the Dear and Darling series. And so we actually started this series. We were working with a company, and we're going to be licensing it out, and they ended up they had some change of leadership and kind of went a different direction, so we got the series back. It was 12 pieces, and so I loved working on it, and picking like some of the dream locations to go. Some of these places Christy and I have gone, some of them we
Okay.
haven't, but it's definitely a dream. Like there's lots of times where if I want to go somewhere and we haven't been there yet, then I'll create a piece of art and I kind of feel like I've been there. I do the same thing with furniture or a car. If I put a car in a certain piece, then it's almost like I kind of own it in a weird way or something. So the same thing worked with this, where it was just sending them to locations that would be dream locations for Christy and I, but I think dream locations for a lot of other people.
I love
And
it.
so that was the heart behind the series. And so we try to pick it. It's a 12-piece series, and we picked locations that just really would be fun to go with, somebody you loved and experience it in a way that would just light your heart up. And this was when I mentioned the word innovate. As I
Uh-huh.
was starting this series, that was the word I got for this. And so as we worked on it, it's not, it doesn't look necessarily like it's taken place in the 50s and 60s. So I have a series called Johnny and June Atomic. That's
Johnny G.
definitely,
Atomic.
yeah, 50s and 60s. So this, we wanted it to be a little bit more modern, but we wanted the outfits to be kind of timeless, like high fashion, but that you'd want to see, or you'd want to wear these outfits. So my wife Christy really helped as far as like picking out like, this is what girls would love to wear, and
Right.
this would look good if the guy was wearing this. And so which is good, because as a guy, like sometimes I don't have as much interest in like figuring that all out, but it comes really natural to her. And so the series was just kind of, that was kind of the heart behind the series
I
for,
love it. That's where
and
the partnership comes in again. The one thing I'll
yeah.
say about this series is, if you go back over to the website, everybody, and check this out and look at the whole series that's out there, these characters that you've created that are part of this series, you really can see the happiness in them all the way through. And I love that. I love that because it really brings an energy because, I'm sure Scott, you realize being an artist that, all these pieces that hang on people's homes around,
Mhm.
you're not making them happy just once. You're making them happy every time they go past that and they think about the experience of purchasing the art, or they think of like if this, I believe, was this Germany Was I right on this? Am I right on
Yeah.
this? Is it Germany? So,
Yep.
if they've been to Germany and had a trip and they go by your painting that they bought, well, now they're thinking about the trip. So it's a great thing that artists can do. It's not a one-time magic, it's a how many time magic. This is very cool. Definitely, guys, take the time to go over, go through the pieces and do it. Susan Silva says, "I love the style." I agree with you, Susan. It's really cool. All right, let's jump over here. In January 2024, the exciting announcement came out that you had partnered with Pan Am World Airways on a new collection, paying tribute to that iconic brand. It is iconic, been around forever, as all the
Mhm.
way back to when I was a kid. Can you share the
Mhm.
story behind how this unique collaboration came to life and the kind of impact it's had on your portfolio and on the fans who have really embraced this venture?
Yeah, so Pan Am came about where I love the brand. I just was like, I love the logo. I just love what it looked. I love what it stood for. And so there was two principal people working for Pan Am. It's really interesting. So Pan Am, it has the owners,
Hmm.
and at the time we started working with them, it was like the two people that kind of were in charge of licensing. And that
Okay.
was basically that's what Pan Am is. It used to be like thousands of people worldwide, and now it's a group of owners and like two people that deal with the licensing, and it's
Okay.
Bryce and Stacy were those people. And so Bryce reached out to me and he's like, hey, love your stuff, is there something we could do? And so we kind of started the dialogue, and it was really cool because there's certain things as an artist, business wise, you might not know all of these things. And so we work with our good friend Noah, from Noah Fine Art, Noah
Hmm.
Elias.
Yep.
And so he's taught us a lot as far as like the business side of it. So the first kind of business call, I just was like, hey, Bryce is asking all these questions. And so Noah was just like, yeah, I'll talk to him. So Noah ends up having like an hour-long conversation with Bryce, and um, you know, decide like, hey, this seems legit. You and Christy should really pursue this. And so we started working with them, and kind of asked them, like, as far as art, what would you guys love to see? What would your people like to see? And so kind of started to craft a series of art around that. So as an artist, sometimes you can create art that's just for yourself. Like you're just like, well, I just really want to, paint blah,
Right.
whatever that is.
Uh-huh.
And for me, like I do have those times, but I get the excitement out of like the challenge of trying to figure out, like, okay, say you're working with Pan Am, what kind of pieces would really touch the heartstrings of people that either used to work there or that used to fly them, or that
Right.
just thinks it's like a cool brand. And so just kind of started thinking about like what would a series like that look like, and so partnered with them, and it's been amazing working with them. We got to go to the Pan Am Gala in New York City last year,
Very cool.
and it was so fun. And just there's like you're meeting, they called them flight stewardesses back then, so meeting the flight stewardesses that were like on the flight with the Beatles when they flew over the first time, or
Right.
working with presidents, or these amazing stories from these amazing women. And so it's again, like they're a great community too, just like awesome people to work with. And so we love working with Pan Am, and that's been a really successful series, for us,
That's
because
a good
our
story.
people just love that. Yeah, they just love
I love
Pan
it.
Am.
Well, there's speaking of the Beatles, there's the British invasion right there on your screen right now,
Mhm.
everybody. If you're a Beatles fan, of which I am, still, that's a pretty cool piece that you could tie in Scooter's artwork with that. Also, over on the website, we're dropping the links in there. There is all kind of Pan Am merch. You see some of it on the screen there with the pillows and the mugs. You can get pieces over there. It's really cool. I encourage everyone to check that out. I'd love to take a moment to highlight the amazing organization Acres of Love. We've talked about it before on this channel. I think it's incredible. Where you and your wife, Christy, have made such a powerful impact by partnering to care for the rescue of AIDS orphans and children, and those with special needs, which is amazing that your hearts are that big to do this. Could you share again about a little bit about this mission, how it became a vital part of your life, and the passion as it drives you ongoing?
Yeah. So I think for Christy and I, our second son Titus, when he was 18 months old, he had a brain aneurysm,
Oh,
and
wow.
he should have died, but total miracle, he lived through it. And he's thriving today. Other than a massive scar, if you were to shave his head, you'd see a big scar.
Right.
Other than that, he's fully recovered and did amazing. But ever since then, just having a really sick kid that was at Children's Hospital and in therapy, and both Christy and I are hearts. Like anytime you see, like you're watching TV and they're like, you see a St. Joe's commercial or whatever,
Right.
like anything with sick kids, was like, oh my gosh. And so
Yes.
as our business was kind of getting up and going, and we were working with our friend Noah, who's a business mentor,
Hmm.
we just were talking to him about it. And one of the things he taught us is like, don't just have a company, have a cause.
Have a
And
cause. Yes.
so we shared with him. He's like, well, what are you guys interested in? What would you want to go after? And so, we're talking about our son. He's like, well, there's an amazing organization that actually helps. A lot of these kids have special needs, and you know, you hear crazy stories with Acres of Love where they're finding kids in dumpsters, and just
Uh,
crazy times, and they get them the medical help they need. They put them in houses with house parents, whether they're like 1 day old baby or like 5, 6, 10 years old. Any kid that needs a home, Acres will put them in a home with the family, raise them up with just awesome, loving house parents. Um, just that shares, it's they don't necessarily say it's faith based, but it definitely has that to it.
that
And
too.
so they'll raise these kids up to where they can release them, they become adults, and they go off and have these amazing lives. And so for us, that really hit our hearts, because we're able to help kids that we get to help the orphans, we get to help
Love
special
that.
needs kids. And it's not just us. That's one of my favorite things I get to tell people. Like, even if I have a line at Disney and somebody buys one print, and I'm just like, you know what, you're partnering with us. Like, you're not just a collector. We get to partner in doing this. And so I love telling people, like, anytime you buy anything from us, you add anything to your collection from us, a portion of that gets to go to Acres. And so we get to change the world together. And so I think the older you get, the more you're like, I mean, money is nice and I love paying the bills, but you start looking for more. I don't know. You just want to help people more than not. You don't want to just like, be about yourself and
Right.
selfish. You're like, what can I do to help, the world be a better place, or help kids that I definitely have a heart for. So
I love that.
started
Love
working
that.
with Acres of Love, and it's an amazing organization. So if anybody's looking for like an amazing organization to kind of look into, Acres of Love is awesome.
So Mike Beachman, our moderator, just dropped the link in for Acres of Love. Here's what I'll tell
Mhm.
everybody tonight. I know at the end of the stream, with a lot of time with dialogues, people like to drop in a super chat, and I'm always grateful for that. And thank you for the love for the channel. But tonight, if you want to do a blessing, if you click on to the link, or you go over to the Artist Scooter website, you can go right there and you can make a donation directly to them, fully tax deductible. I've made donations before to it myself. I highly encourage that. If you want to honor this interview tonight rather than supporting me, support Acres of Love tonight. I would appreciate
Mhm.
that. So,
Mhm.
um, let's talk. We mentioned Noah a couple times here, and we were blessed to talk with him recently, and for me to be inspired by him as well. Recently, it was announced that you officially joined the Noah Fine Art family. What was the
Mhm.
opportunity like to bring in our eyes, two elite artists under one creative house, what it meant to you both professionally and personally?
Wow, it's changed so much. So it's kind of a funny story how we started working together. So when we were living in Redding, California, my wife Christy was working for it's called Bethel Music. It's a Christian music company,
Hmm.
and one of the people she worked with was friends with Noah, and I kind of knew about Noah just like a little bit, but didn't know too much about him. But I knew he was an amazing artist.
Right.
And so, fast forward to probably like 3 or 4 years later, we had just started the fine art, really pursuing the fine art business side of our business. I'd mostly been doing illustration and really started pursuing the fine art. And
Okay.
so, our first year, we're pursuing it, and it's just going horrible. Like, and so I was just like, Noah, I'm like, so we reached out to our mutual friend. His name was Jay. We're like, hey, Jay, can you put us in contact with Noah? And so, he did. He called Noah up. And he's like, "Yeah, he'll talk to you." So I called him, and Noah was really funny because I think he gets pulled in a lot of different directions just because he knows a ton about the business and
Very
just has a
smart.
great business.
Hmm.
Yeah, and just all around great guy. So I started asking him all these questions, and he was airbrushing. I could hear him airbrushing in a studio, And I could tell I asked him like 20 questions in like 1 minute, just you know, and I could tell he kind of like, stopped airbrushing. He was like, he's like, dude, that would take me weeks to unpack, like, and answer all those questions. He's like, but here's what I do. And he let us know he works with artists. And back then he had Noah U going. And
Right.
so that was
No,
just an
you.
online course you could do.
Hmm.
So we started working with Noah and had a lot to learn as far as like what we're doing. But I think one of the things he liked about Christy and I is like he could say like, okay, do this, and we would do it. We're like, okay, we'll do it. Like we never question him. We're like, we just would really trust
Follow.
in his expertise and follow what he did. So we really just tried to listen to what he was doing, and it really started taking off. And I know he's one of those people, like I mentioned, Barbara Bradley, where God puts somebody in your life.
Right.
Noah and his wife Chantel, like that's like a gift. God's like, okay, here's a mentor that's going to be in your life. And so started working with him years ago, and just as like he was our mentor and our business coach, and through the years just growing our business and just becoming friends. I think it got to a point where I was just like, and he knew I'd worked for Disney, and I was like, well, hey, what does that look like if we pursued, kind of doing this together? And
Right.
so he was amazing, and just like, really opened doors for Christy and I when it came to the Disney piece,
Love it.
and still does. Like he's like, it's almost like having the most amazing advocate, agent, best friend all wrapped up that's going to go out and represent you. And so that's what he's been for us, and it's just been so awesome working with him, and
I love it. And
just really appreciate it.
and a ball of energy as well.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, he's got some energy.
Oh my lord! If you
Yeah.
missed our interview by chance, everybody, if you're just coming in because you're a fan of Scooter and you missed our interview with Noah, we did that a couple weeks back. Another
Mhm.
amazing, much like Scott, incredible inspiration. Go check that out. And also, just an acknowledgement to him. Noah had heard after the fact about our raising money for the soldiers and all we're doing. And I think I announced it the other day, but Noah and Griffin, his son, sent over 3 autographed copies of his book, which is incredible. He's a great, great
Yeah,
author. We'll be
he
giving those
is.
away for the charity stuff. So check out Noah if you haven't already, everybody. All
Yep,
right, as you know,
definitely.
as you're looking into your career of animation, I'd be
Mhm.
remiss if we didn't have this discussion. I don't think there's a way to truly tell your story without acknowledging the influence of seeing Mickey and Minnie brought to life by Disney epical animator and artist Tom Orurup. Could you spend a few minutes sharing with our audience the impact Tom had on you personally and how his work kind of shaped your path a little bit?
Yeah, like I didn't know who he was, but I knew his style. And so the more I started researching it, like this his name, Tom Orup, just kept popping up. I'm like,
Right.
this dude's insane. Just an amazing artist. I love his style. I love his mixture of like really straight lines with like clean curves, and the simplicity that he could bring so much life with just simplicity of line. And so I just loved his style. And so, as an example, there's like the Mickey Mouse on the right hand side. I had never seen a Mickey like that before, and that's from a 1950s car commercial.
Hmm.
And when the studio was kind of between pictures and Walt was trying to make money, they would do more commercial type projects. And so
Correct.
Tom was one of his go-to guys who designed this Mickey and Minnie for this awesome car commercial. It was for a Nash Rambler was the name of the car, and I saw Mickey and Minnie's in it, and they've got kids in the back seat. And I just was like, oh my gosh, like I need to bring back his Mickey. And so that's just something where I fell in love with it. I didn't invent it. I'm just like I get to create art with that, and that's had a really awesome response. People just love seeing that. It's definitely more on the flat side. It's not supposed to look like it has a ton of volume to it, but just a ton of character, super designy. And so, just been doing stuff with his Mickey and Minnie designs, but he was an amazing artist. I researched him. I've done talks on him. He was a spicy guy. Walt was a spicy guy. So like you get to hear stories where there's like, disagreements on how certain things could look. But
Right.
obviously Walt trusted him with doing some amazing,
Yes.
not just shorts and commercials, but also character design for films. Um, he worked really closely with Ward Kimball, which was like one of my other favorite animators. So you can definitely see how that influenced
Those
him.
two
But
bounds. Yep.
Yeah,
That's very
yeah.
cool.
So
I also
yeah,
love over on your Instagram, you have a little homage to him where you try to draw your own version of that Mickey, I think, as I was
yeah,
watching the one day, which is really cool. Really
yeah.
cool. I love it when you can see people paying respect to those who came before them and did stuff. That's cool. Let's
Mhm,
talk about, for a second here, you had the opportunity to interact directly with those purchasing your art. And I mentioned it to you before the show that I sat there and watched lines of people come through and so much happiness of people when you whether you're at Disney California Adventure with Disneyana or down at Epcot Festival of the Arts. How have these experiences and conversations with the Disney fans impacted you as an artist? And what have you taken away
mhm.
from those moments?
Wow, it is really, I don't care who you are, like, so those are pictures from Disneyana, which is at Disneyland,
Hmm.
and it's this amazing, it's amazing place. You walk in, it's got 3 rooms, and they'll set artists up in kind of the middle room. And the first time I walked into Disneyana to do a show, it was before, um, actually, I think there was already a line there, but, like, I walked in and I was completely blown away by how beautiful it was, and just the fact that I got to be at Disneyana doing an art show, like, that never gets old. It's an
Right,
amazing experience to sit there. You're like, um, yeah, I was kind of speechless the very first time. Like, I walked in, I'm blown away. They set all the art up. Then I sit down to talk to people, and I'm just like, okay, focus, think. Like, people are here. You got to kind of pull it together. But
right,
I was almost like shell shocked in the coolest way. I'm like, I can't believe I get to do something this amazing. Just thank you, God. And so, and anytime I get to talk to people, I think that honestly, that's a gift for me. I love that part of it. I never want to rush that. I always just want to give people time. I want to get to know them. Like, I probably ask them more questions than they ask me because I'm just like, ooh, I get to meet people, and I really, really enjoy that part. And so, I think I'm always trying to be conscious of a line because I don't want to take too long with people. But
right.
my heart is to give people a good amount of time to talk to them, to answer any questions they have, take pictures with them. Because lots of times they've waited in line for a long time. We have, like, one collector flew down from Canada to Festival of the Arts in Florida just to buy a piece, and we've had other ones that drove 12 hours to pick it up. They're rushing to before Epcot closes so I could sign it for them. Like, you get to hear these stories, and it really, gosh, it's just like it's humbling, and you're just like, I never want to take it for granted, and I really want to
Right.
just I want to honor those people that like the art that I've created, and so I really try to. It's easy for me to take my time. It's the hardest part for me is to, like, kind of go quicker than I want because I could just talk to people forever. So
I think
I'm
I,
so grateful for those times. It still blows my mind.
I had some friends that purchased your art that are down there this last year, and when you signed it and everything, and then they came over. I was sitting over there just taking it easy by Germany for a few minutes, and they brought their piece over, and the first thing that came out of their mouth was, "He's so down to earth and nice." And I think that was really cool that, that they could see that inflection of you, and now they have not only that moment of, "Okay, look, this art is cool, I'm gonna hang it on my wall," but they have that moment to reflect back with you, and I think that's really cool. Like I said, I saw so many happy faces down there in that Germany area this year. It was really awesome. So, let's
Yeah.
let's talk for a second here, if you would. Just kinda let's pull out the crystal ball and take a look. Are there any, concepts or characters in your creative hope box that you'd like to get into that you haven't got into yet? Or are there any dream locations that you'd love to get to travel for inspiration or potential, maybe even collaborations you've been thinking about that you could share with us? Now, I know some of it may not be able to, but I figured I'd
Yeah.
ask.
It's no, that's a really good question. So, getting back from Festival of the Arts, so we've been doing that. We've been doing Disney Anna, and so just God's opened some really good doors. So, when we come back from Festival of the Arts, we've worked every day for almost 2 months, and
Right.
so the plan is when we come back to Colorado Springs, where we live, like Christy and I are like, we're going to take time off. But while we were there, we had several conversations with just different branches of Disney as far as, like, different things to work on. So the whole time coming back, I just last week finished up kind of taking care of requests to get art on all these different things, Disney initiatives, which
Mhm,
we'll get to share about as they kind of get closer. But I'm so excited about just the opportunities because I love drawing, the Disney characters. That it's
mhm,
like it's one of those things like I would do it like I did it for free and I did it when I get paid and I love anytime I get a chance to do that. So there's definitely the Disney stuff that we've been working on and then we're always just as an artist you're always like okay what resonates with people and so Johnny and June Atomic is one of our couples that we came out with probably like gosh almost like 6 years ago
6 years ago, I
and
think,
just
yeah.
yeah, these characters. I love Johnny Cash music, so it's loosely based off of him and his wife June Carter.
Yep.
Doesn't necessarily look like them, but they just have that love story. And so that's something where like each year I'm just like, what are they going to do this year? And it's always and they've been really successful. I did a Christmas piece this last year that just it did really well. And so I'm still working on new things for them. And
Cool.
then, we're working on a book with Pan Am right now that's a cocktail recipe book, and it's kind of
Nice.
aviation and destination theme. So, one thing Christy and I do, it's usually almost every single Friday night, we go
Mhm.
live on Facebook and Instagram Live at 5 o'clock Mountain Time, and we make cocktails. So, like, people will they'll send us their idea for a cocktail, or we'll just try certain things out, and we're by no means like great at making cocktails, but we're like, but it's fun to do that. So we'll make a cocktail live, we'll drink it, and kind of decide like, do we like it, do we not like it, what would we change? And and while we're doing that, we're using all those recipes for the book. If it's a good recipe, it goes in the book. If not, it
Nice.
doesn't. But one fun thing we do with that is we always have like fun kind of trivia questions or just like fun questions to ask that we'll ask everybody who's watching. Christy and I answer, and then people will type in their answers. And it's just like this awesome way for us to connect with our people, to get to know them better, for them to get to know us better. So that's something we've been doing every Friday night, which has helped us with the cocktail book. And then, there's a couple like top secret, projects that we're working on. I
Right.
can't talk about right now that are more,
And that's why
us
you
like
need to
what
follow the social media, guys. Follow the social media
yeah,
so you get the announcements. I
yeah,
have tuned in. I had to usually have a show going on that Friday night, but I have rewatched some of the Facebooks, and I love
yeah.
the interaction between you and your wife, the laughter, the going back and forth. It is a good time. Definitely, you guys should check that out. Absolutely. Well, speaking of social media, let me highlight real quick. We've been dropping the links all night throughout the night. We also put all of the links in the description of the video so everybody can find them all the time. You can find the Artist Scooter over on Facebook. You can find over on Insta. It's definitely a great way, especially during the shows and times like that, to keep up with where he's going to be and when he's going to be. You can get art over on Pinterest, which is
Mhm.
pretty cool for Scott there. Of course, he has his website, and I mentioned that throughout the night because his website, one of the better websites that I've seen out here. You can go over there and look at the listing of art. This is just the listing of all the art that they do over there. And I say they because while Scott's the artist, let me tell you, it's a team between he and Christy. This is amazing. So you got a ton to look at over there. You got merch you can buy. I mean, look at the bowling shirts on the left. That is awesome. You got mugs. You got different house stuff for the house attire that you can get to, home decor and everything. Also, you can keep up with Scott and everything on upcoming events. Now, of course, the April one has moved along, which thank God April's
Mhm.
moved on. But you got August and November out in Disneyana at Disneyland for see
Mhm.
Scott and talk to him about his art. And hopefully, when the announcements come out, and usually December of all the artists. We'll find some dates for Scott that'll be down for Festival of the Arts. I know I'll be back down there. It's my thing that I do all the time. So keep up with Scott. You'll be able to find out where he is over here. I love this that's availability. If you know somebody that loves art or that loves Scooter especially, you can go over to his website and you can buy a gift card and get them a gift card, and they can go in and use it to purchase art. I think that's ingenious. Not sure who thought of it, but it's the first time I've seen it. I was like, wow, this is great. So that's another great way to support our good friend here. And of course, he also has a YouTube channel as well. Before we tie things up here, I got to tell you, can you tell me a little bit about this amazing character? Well, tell them because I know a little bit about this amazing character.
Yeah, so Pleakley. So that's who I worked on with Lilo and Stitch, and Ruben Aquino was the main animator. And so I was at the Florida studio, and the Florida studio did the three main pictures they did were Lilo and Stitch, Brother Bear, and Mulan. And so when I got there, you can every time there's a new movie, they call it baseball trading, where you can either pick the character you want to work on, or you could pick like the lead, that's like the boss of that character. And
Right.
so while I was there, I had he became a great friend. Brian Summer was the lead, and
Okay.
I didn't care what character he was working on. I just said, I just want to work with you, Brian. So the whole time I just worked with Brian, like from Pocahontas all the way to the end. And so for Lilo and Stitch, our two characters that we worked on that Brian was in charge of were Pleakley and then David.
Okay.
And Ruben Aquino was the animator, and it was just a blast working on him. I mean, he's
I
got
love
three
it.
legs, super fun walk cycle. If you watch it, it's like it's impossible what he does. It's
It
just like
spins.
his
It's
feet. Yeah, it did crazy things,
yeah.
and just a great voice. And the movie he loves mosquitoes, and just a really fun kind of quirky character. So
Yeah, I love
he,
the character, and it was so cool
yeah,
when I came across it, and I was like, "Wow, I didn't realize that that was something that you were involved with." So at this point, we
yeah.
always try to do a final thought of the night. I always throw it over to my guest out of respect to go first. It's your moment, final thought, then I'll go and we'll tidy this thing up.
Gosh, well, I really appreciate you said really just thank you so much for just being here and promoting artists, and super grateful for that. And um, yeah, if I could say anything, I'm just really grateful I get to do what I get to do, and I'm grateful for all the people that support us, that are collectors. I love when collectors become friends. Like that's my favorite part, and a lot of that happens when I get to talk
Yes.
to people, face to face. So I just have a lot of gratitude for people even watching tonight. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Totally appreciate it, and I love creating art for you guys, and look forward to doing it a lot longer.
Yeah, we want that. We definitely want a lot longer. For my final thought, Scott, I want to thank you for being, just an inspiration through your art, but also through how you lead your life, through your passions and beliefs in your faith, and your partnership with your wife, both in business and in life. As I've done this whole time to put together, prepare for this interview, we learned so much about you, and it really just motivated me to want to be better and do good things. Your art is, again, it's iconic to me. Every time I see your piece or I'm with somebody, oh, that's Scooter, oh, that's Scooter, and I love it, and I love the fact that people are seeing your vision not only with Disney but outside of that with your Pan Am work and Dear and Darling and so much more that you're working on. And again, I just thank you for being you and doing what you're doing. And I look forward to many more times and hopefully more down the road to bring you back at some point to talk about new ventures or new exciting things you're doing. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
Hang
I
tight.
appreciate you.
Hang tight for 1 second. I'm going to do things. I'll close and we'll talk backstage before we go real quick. Everybody, what an amazing interview. I'm sorry Jen couldn't be here, but as I talked about earlier in the night, she was with her son. I appreciate Jen stopping in here. We did a lot of work preparing for this, and I know that was tough for her because Jen was really excited about Scooter. Next week, we've got Martin Sue coming in. Martin, if you guys remember, I happened to be down at the festival going through doing some other things, and Preston saw his work and said, "Dad, that's really cool. Could we talk to him?" And we talked to him, and he was willing to come on with us. He's been over in Japan working for the past couple months. Just got back in. We got him next week, so we're really, really excited about that. It's been my honor to sit here and do dialogues tonight, as we do each week, trying to bring you Disney animators, Disney artists, and Disney authors, and Disney artists, and Disney Imagineers. And I should let the cat out of the bag that we secured two Disney Imagineers today. Two Disney Imagineers. I'll talk more about it on tomorrow night's Wednesday night Disney Insomniacs. More Disney Imagineers have lined up and are going to do Disney Dialogues very soon. On behalf of Scott, myself, and Jen, thank you for joining Dialogues tonight. And go over to see our friend Spaceship Ears. His dad and grandfather, his grandfather is John DeCure Sr. If you don't know, his name is on a window in Magic Kingdom. And tonight, He is digging into more Disney magic. Somebody drop John DeKeir's link in there for over there on Spaceship Ears. He's talking about the Jungle Cruise all night, digging into it. Go check him out, everybody. See you real soon.